Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton. We welcome you here in the sanctuary and those who are joining us online. I ask those here in person to turn off or mute your electronic devices, for the exception of those who are using the T-coil hearing assistance technology that we have here in the sanctuary. My name is Michele Corbeil. My pronouns are she and her, and I am today's worship leader. Joining me today are many members and friends of Blooms for Africa, including our music ministers, the greeters and worship assistants and ushers, and the sound and audio visual team. Thank you all. Following the service, the hospitality team will welcome you in the foyer with refreshments. Please plan to stay and enjoy conversation with Blooms members, where you can learn more about the 20th anniversary garden tour next month and Pat Dickinson's book, Together We Bloom, a history of Blooms for Africa from 2006 to 2026. We welcome you today, whatever the circumstances of your life, and the many ways we identify, and in the diversity of how we live and how we love. I extend a special welcome to those who are joining us for the first time, those who are here at the invitation of family members and Blooms members, and members from other grandmother to grandmother groups. Welcome. In this house of faith, we are all included as we search for truth, build community, and strive to make the world a better place for all. Our call to worship this morning is a reading, A Gift to Offer the World, and are from Reverend Lisa Friedman. We touch the floor to remember that wherever we bring our best selves is holy ground. We reach for the sky to remember that we are part of a mystery much bigger than ourselves. We hold hands to remember that we need one another and are part of one human family. We join voices to remember that we each have a gift to offer the world and to use in making the world a better place. Following our land acknowledgement, our music ministers, Beverly Horton, Marianne Forbes, and Rachel Derry, will begin with our prelude music. I now welcome Bernice McCrae, a member of Blooms. Thank you for sharing Blooms for Africa's and the Stephen Lewis Foundation land acknowledgement.
We begin by acknowledging that the land we meet on today is situated on the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. Today, Hamilton is home to many Indigenous people, and we recognize that we must do more to learn about the rich history of this land so that we can better understand our roles as residents, neighbors, partners, and caretakers. The Stephen Lewis Foundation is committed to the principles of social justice, equality, and solidarity with our African community-based partners as they face the continued effects of the HIV and AIDS pandemic in sub-Saharan Africa. Consistent with those values, the Stephen Lewis Foundation commits to a journey of ongoing learning, reflection, relationship building, and solidarity with Indigenous communities in Canada. Blooms for Africa, as part of the Grandmothers Campaign, endeavors to respect the Stephen Lewis Foundation values of social justice, international solidarity, and equality. Nothing about us without us.
I was a shy and lonely girl with the heavens in my eyes, and as I walked along heard the echoes of her cries. I cannot fight, I cannot a warrior be. It's not my nature nor my teaching. It is the womanhood in me. I was a lost and angry youth. There were no tears in my eyes. I saw no justice in my world, only the echoes of her cries. I cannot fight, I cannot a warrior be. It's not my nature nor my teaching. It is the womanhood in me. I am an older woman now, and I will heed my own cries, and I will a fierce warrior be, till not another woman dies. I can and will fight. I can and will fight. I will a warrior be. It is my nature and my duty. It is the womanhood in me. I can and will fight. I can and will fight. I can and will a warrior be. It is my nature and my duty. It is the sisterhood in me.
Thank you. That was beautiful. I invite Anne Craig Howarth and Pat Dickinson forward to light our chalices. A chalice lighting for the dark and the light by Francis Corbeil. May we light this chalice this morning to remind us of the power and beauty of balance and contrast. It is darkness that can make the flame of a single candle so powerful, and light that deepens those shadows in turn. A chalice flame is the meeting point, the union of the refuge, safety, and incredible beauty of darkness, and the warmth, that assurance, and the joy of light. May this act of lighting our chalice this morning remind us that we are stronger together in all the complexities and disagreements of relationship, because we are different and because we are one. Please join in reciting the congregational mission statement: to nurture each other, serve the community, and inspire action to heal the world. Please rise in body and or spirit to sing our first hymn. It's from the Teal hymnal, the number 1021, Lean on Me.
Ready. Here we go. Some time in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, your friend, and I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride. If I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let me. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be Berkeley. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, oh, I'm right up the road, and I'll share your load if you just call. Let's go. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean. Now keep that clapping going. Just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on. It won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on.
I now welcome Suzanne Birchall, a member of Blooms, to share the story for all ages today.
Can you imagine the Bay of Fundy, a great body of water on the East Coast? There was a moon that shone on the Bay of Fundy years ago. She was bright, she was beautiful, the sea would sparkle. And there was also a lighthouse, and it would shine. And the lighthouse would shine at her, she would shine at the lighthouse, and the two of them loved each other and lit up all of the cliffs. On those cliffs, there were hundreds of animals that could hunt by the light of the moon. Until one night, there was a horrible stench. They could smell it down the road for miles and miles, a smell such as you can't imagine. And then there's a howling. People could hear it everywhere. Oh. From out of the Bay of Fundy up onto the rocks came a horrible monster. It was made from dead bits of penguins and seals and seabirds, and all these creatures' bits swirled together in the dory rips. That's where two tides meet. Swirl and swirl it did until it made this awful monster. The monster swam itself up onto the rocks, climbed and climbed and climbed until he came to the lighthouse. And he roared a terrible roar, and he stunk his terrible stench. The keeper and his wife fled in terror to the town, leaving the door open, and the light went out of the lighthouse. And what happened next is the monster went to the edge of the cliff, looked up at the moon, and the moon looked down at the monster. The monster started to dance back and forth, and so did the moon. She was so enraptured, and suddenly she fell from the sky and splat right on the waves of the Bay of Fundy, just as two tides were coming in. She sunk to the bottom. And so for days and nights and nights and days, there was no light out there. And the poor little creatures, hundreds of them, couldn't hunt because they couldn't see much. It was black. And every night, they couldn't have hunted anyway because of the smell. It would just take your breath away. Until they were almost starving to death, and one of the smallest, one of the littlest of the 100 called for a meeting, and with its wee tiny voice said, "I have a plan." And the rest said, "So? How will that work?" Well, it goes like this. You see, the monster likes to carry its soul underneath its fin sort of arm, and the monster loves its soul. So a whole bunch of us, a team, will rush it, take the soul, tell that monster, "Can't have your soul back until you tell us where the moon fell." How about that? "No, that's stupid. It will never work." But then another voice said, "Let's try." And another voice said, "Let's try." And then there were hundreds of voices saying, "Let's try." And so the next night came, and the monster came up howling and stinking. And the team got ready. They rushed and they grabbed its soul. And the monster said, "Give me back my soul." And they said, "No. No. No, not till you tell us where the moon is." And that went on all night long until the monster gave up and said, lifted its fin and said, "Over there." Then the team, hundreds of them, jumped into that cold water of the Bay of Fundy, and they swam and they swam and they looked down, and there were all those bits and pieces shining. And they dove and they dove and they dove and they dove, and they brought all those pieces up to the surface. And all the pieces were floating around, and next they had to fit them together. So they tried this and that, and finally, one crunch, and the moon was sitting there all together, a little cracked, but okay. And so the next thing was, as cold as they were and as tired as they were, they had to go underneath and hold a big breath and then push and push, and they pushed her up off the surface. There she floated. And then she went back up into the sky, and she was shining. Meanwhile, the little creatures swam and swam, shivering and shaking, and they came up to the rocks, and the monster was waiting, saying, "Where's my soul?" And they said, "Right here." The monster rushed towards the soul, but he didn't know what was behind him. Hundreds of little animals, and they gave him a huge shove. And over the cliff he went, and he smashed on the rocks into thousands and thousands of pieces, and then they smashed his soul. Ha! Then the creatures all gathered together. They looked up at the moon, looked at them, and then they looked at one another. And without speaking, they all knew it took one little voice, but it did take them all working together, using the seeds of courage from that little tiniest creature. Now, if you go down to the Bay of Fundy, down shore to Cape Door, where this all took place, true story, you know, if you go there, the light doesn't shine anymore. Nobody wants to go back to the lighthouse, but the moon will be there. And if you want to, you too, because of the courage of all those little creatures, you too can dance with the moon.
Everybody. Oh, and now it's on. I hear it. I just wanted to share that there are always really fun events and things going on at the church. So check out the weekly emails that we send out on Thursday mornings. If you don't get those, there's a place to sign up on the website. There's some announcements here before, I think also after the service, right? And yeah, there's always some fun things. So Third Space this Friday is happening. We're doing a trivia night. There's also an acoustic jam happening with the drumming circle. So whether you like trivia or music, there's something happening for you. So we hope to see you out. Come hang out with our community. And there are some upcoming dates. There's on the June 26th, that Friday, there's going to be another special one. And July 25, we're hoping to get some people coming to an outing to the Grand Rivers Powwow and the Oshwegan, thank you, Speedway with the First Nations group. So that's all I have to share for today. Quick and easy. So let's sing the kids out. Thank you so much.
As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is real. As you go, as you go.
I welcome Jennifer Kay, all the way from Newfoundland, to the podium to join me in the words for meditation. In these moments of contemplation, I invite you to relax and join in this responsive meditative reading. Following the reading, we'll observe a moment of silence, followed by music. When the music begins, you're invited to come forward and light a candle. Our reading this morning is Still Becoming by Reverend Dr. David Breeden. Jennifer and I will read the text that's in lowercase, and the congregation will read the uppercase.
Until all our neighbors, we have work to do.
Until all flourish, we have not yet arrived. We have dreamed utopias, yet we've created so many nightmares. We dream of mornings without fear, evenings without enough.
We know that when one is unhoused,
None of us are home. When one is hungry,
all ill-fed. When one is treated unjustly,
we are all accused. We know that when one is a stranger,
let's bring more chairs to the table.
all together, let's build a life that can be shared.
Until all our neighbors, we have dreaming to do.
To all flourish, we have work to do. Each week, we take time to bear witness to the milestones in our lives, including the sorrows and heartbreaks, the joys and celebrations, and that for which we are grateful. Notice who lights candles, and if the moment feels appropriate, gently inquire and offer your support and congratulations. I have one sorrow to share today, a sorrow from Nancy Wilson. Lauren Lowe's son, Ryan, passed away suddenly and unexpectedly on May 28th. He has a wife and 2 young daughters, 8 and 10 years old. Lauren is headed to Kingston to be with them and to see what she can do to be of help. Please keep Lauren and her family in your thoughts and prayers. We know that there are sorrows among us too tender to share at the moment. We hold those in this space today with the reminder that we are never alone. I have one written joy to share today, and it's a happy birthday to Martin Dooley. Happy birthday. His birthday's actually today. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mark. Happy birthday to you. And I know there are many more joys in our lives, and please take time to share that with each other during our time together after the service. We also share gratitudes, and I have 2 today to share, one from Pat Dickinson. Deep gratitude to Jennifer Kay and to Margaret Holmes for their time and expertise as designer and copy editor on the Blooms for Africa history book that is being launched after today's service. They donated hundreds of hours of time and amazing skill to ensure the book appropriately honors the efforts of the members of Blooms for Africa. Plus, they were a joy to work with. And from Gail Rappolt, a gratitude from Blooms for Africa. The members of Blooms for Africa extend gratitude to the Board of Directors, the Finance Committee, and the congregation of the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton for their 2 decades of support for African grandmothers through the Stephen Lewis Foundation, to the Board for creating a special relationship with Blooms, to the Finance Committee for granting Blooms free rental of the building for our meetings and our events, and to the congregation for their hours of volunteering at the events, support for our walks, and attendance at our book exchanges, garden tours, and a myriad of other events. We could not have done it without this congregation. When gratitude becomes our practice, we live in peace. And now it's our offertory. And our words today are an offering as hospitality, generosity as our spiritual value. This congregation is a theologically diverse religious community with membership open to all in accordance with our principles, mission, and vision. We are an independent member congregation of the Canadian Unitarian Council with 41 congregations across Canada, and the Unitarian Universalist Association, with 1,081 member, emerging, and covenanting congregations in the United States and around the world. Our congregation is entirely self-governed and financially supported by the voluntary generosity of members and friends. To this end, let there be an offering to support the support and thriving ministries of this congregation.
Wabibi hawa, nguzo ya taifa. Wabibi hawa, nguzo ya jamii. Wabibi kioo cha jamii yetu, wanapaswa kulindwa na kusikilizwa. Wabibi wanapaswa kulindwa na kusikilizwa. Wabibi wabarikiwe, wabibi wabarikiwe, wabarikiwe, tuwashimuni,
Thank you for your gifts and support of the ministries to one another and to this community. Appreciate it. Thank you. Now it's time to welcome to the front Anne, Pat, Jan, Gail, and Doreen to share 2 decades, or their reflections and insights on 2 decades of working in solidarity with African grandmothers.
Wabibi wameelemewa na yatima sana, maisha yao yamekuwa duni sana. Wabibi wameelemewa na yatima sana, maisha yao yamekuwa duni sana, kwa sababu ya janga hili la ukimwi. Kwa sababu ya janga hili la ukimwi, wanahitaji upendo, wanahitaji faraja.
Have we learned about the value of our purpose to raise funds and to educate? Let's hear from our panel. First will be Anne Howarth, a founding member of Blooms for Africa, and she also has been a gentle leader in many roles within Blooms. Anne, how did Blooms for Africa get started?
Well, it was 2006. Pat Dickinson and I both heard the testimonials from the African grandmothers who had been invited to tell their stories about the devastating impact of the HIV and AIDS on their nation, and more specifically on their lives and that of their grandchildren at the International AIDS Conference held in Toronto that year. They spoke of the grief of the loss of their own children, leaving grandchildren without parents. African grandmothers were left to care for their grandchildren, and many other children orphaned by this pandemic. The Grandmothers to Grandmothers campaign developed from this conference, and Canadian grandmothers pledged their support and vowed not to rest until they could. Pat and I spoke of the outrage we felt about what was happening. Without hesitation, we said, we have to do something. Pat describes this conversation very beautifully in her book, Together We Bloom. Soon after at a Sunday service here at the Unitarian Church, we invited a few women to join us to discuss how we could do that something. All who gathered were familiar with the work of the Stephen Luce Foundation, and a commitment was made. Our name, Blooms for Africa, was chosen, and a garden tour was the fundraising venture we had decided on. Raising awareness was also, we thought, very important. Without any garden tour experience, the one thing we did have was an enormous amount of willpower, energy, and dedication. We collaborated with other groups that had formed and found members of the community eagerly willing and able to support us. Part of our mission statement here at the Unitarian Church is to inspire action to heal the world. And right from the beginning, the church and its congregation have been always here to support us. And so began our walking with, in solidarity with our African sisters 20 years ago.
So Anne, your second question. Why is funding so important today?
Well, the COVID pandemic seemed to me took away some of the spotlight from the HIV and AIDS, and coupled with the recent international cuts in funding, resulted in severely straining HIV programs across sub-Saharan Africa. Community services like home-based care, mental health support, access to ensure HIV prevention and treatment, support for grandmothers raising orphan grandchildren, and many, many more programs were left without service and care. Community-led organizations have been the backbone of the HIV response. They were able to reach the most vulnerable and now have had widespread closures. Some are held together by volunteers who had paid positions in the past. Communities are at the heart of every successful response. Grandmothers have answered the call to the action in their communities. Their voices, leadership, lived experience have driven progress and accountability. However, they cannot do it alone. In the words of Executive Director Winnie Byenzima of UNAID, we must overcome this disruption and transform the AIDS response. After decades of struggle, the global response was within reach of its goal of ending the struggles of the global HIV response by 2030. The world has come too far and achieved too much to allow progress to unravel at this historic opportunity. There exists an antiretroviral therapy medication. Without sustained financial commitment, millions of babies, youth, adults will die because of the lack of access to it. It's imperative to get it to those who need it. Ms. Byanyemi says, it is our moment to choose. We can allow these shocks to undo decades of hard-won gains, or we can unite behind the vision, the shared vision of ending AIDS. Millions of lives depend on it. Blooms for Africa shares this vision.
Thank you, Anne. Second speaker is Jan Pollard. She's been a member of Blooms for Africa for many years, most of which she has been and continues to be our treasurer. Jan, when you hear, "We will not rest until they can rest," what does that mean to you?
This is a statement made by Stephen Lewis at the First International AIDS Conference in 2006. Stephen's daughter, Alana, became distraught at seeing the conditions the grandmothers were living in. It was then that the Grandmothers to Grandmothers campaign was born. This is especially important at this time when USAID has been pulled and other countries have followed in reducing the amounts of aid to Africa. There have been so many other health crises like COVID and Ebola that have taken away the spotlight on HIV and AIDS. Lack of funds leads to lack of programs and lack of medical care.
Okay. You have been our treasurer for over 10 years and are our primary ongoing contact with the Stephen Lewis Foundation. You have also been our lead for our Stride Walk, Blooms Walking to Uganda, a major annual fundraiser. Tell us what this has meant to you and what were the highlights.
Having worked in banks for many years, I love working with numbers and money, and being part of a group that has been able to raise meaningful funds means a great deal to me. Blooms was set up as a fundraising group, so it seems only natural that we face up to this challenge. There have been 70 individual fundraising events achieved by more than 90 members over the years, and they have all been well supported. The big highlight for me has been the Stride Walk. In 2015, we did our own Stride Walk, and we walked from mid-January for 4.5 months as a Blooms fundraiser. We raised $12,000, but this was too long a time to be counting our steps every day. The following year, we walked approximately 6 to 8 weeks, but that was still too long, and so over the last 10 years, we have walked for the month of May, and the most funds raised were during COVID in 2020 and 2021, and this year, 2026. As we near completion of the 2026 walk, the walk itself will have made approximately $187,000. Roughly 90% of that money was raised by Blooms members and people that sponsored for them. However, the Great Grannies of Meaford have walked with us on several occasions, particularly most recently, so 10% of that money was credited to them, but still goes to the Grandmothers Campaign. I believe that fundraising makes a difference. On a recent bus tour of South Africa, we stopped at a school because the children were outside on lunch break after eating cooked maize, which was for some would be the main meal of the day. The children wore uniforms, which is compulsory in order for them to attend school. Without financial help, children are not able to go to school, or they may go on alternate days, sharing a uniform with a sibling. Funds provide health care, medicine, and education. One amazing thing now is that women can actually choose to get pregnant. There is still a long way to go with education. At the end of June 2024, we learned from the foundation, Stephen Lewis Foundation, that we had, since inception, made $439,821. Mark Wiebert and I decided that during 2027, we could reach our target of $500,000. However, Gail got wind of this.
Yay, Gail.
We would reach our target for the 20th anniversary in 2026. I'm excited to be able to tell you. I told someone I wouldn't cry, but it makes me want to. Our target of $500,000 that we hope to get by 2027 has been reached and even exceeded. The final figure as of today is $515,000.
Oh, Jan, thank you. What wonderful news. Our next speaker is Pat Dickinson, one of 2 founding members of the Blooms for Africa, and she has served as chair and co-chair of Blooms, as well as co-chair for various garden tours and book exchanges. Pat, you are launching your newest book, Together We Bloom, A History of Blooms for Africa, 2006 to 2026. So, what is your favorite chapter in the book?
Doreen, that's like asking me to choose my favorite child. I like all the chapters. They're all wonderful. I particularly like the 3 chapters that focus on the fundraising. I like the chapter about the history of the Blooms. It's a fascinating chapter. I like the chapter about all the fun we've had together. But there is a favorite chapter, and I name it in the book. It's chapter 6, and it's called What Blooms for Africa Has Meant to Me. And it's testimonials from members, past and present, about the answer to that question. And it's very inspirational. There's a lot of variety in it, but there's also a great deal of consistency. One thing that is said over and over again is that people were inspired by hearing Stephen Lewis speak. It was a life-changing experience, and they knew they had to do something. The other thing that is said over and over again is that belonging to Blooms for Africa and helping our sisters in Africa give older women who have many lost a sense of identity and purpose in life, it gives them a renewed sense of purpose. It gives them a renewed agency. These are women that have been very successful in their lives, in their communities, and with their families, and some of them have lost that sense of purpose. And so helping our African sisters gives us an increased sense of identity, especially since they have had the opposite experience. They had reached the same age where they deserve to have a rest, and they hope that their communities and their children would say, yes, it's time for you to rest, you've done your work, but their communities and their children were all gone. They had died, and they were left with their children, the grandchildren to raise, so they couldn't rest, and that's why one of our mantras is, we will not rest until they can rest. And so that's a very inspirational chapter. It's also consistent with the first principle of the Unitarian Church, and I think if you have a program, the principles of the Unitarian Church are on the back of your program. And the first principle is the inherent worth and dignity of all people. And this has provided grandmothers both in Africa and Canada with a sense of dignity. And the other thing in that chapter is it contains all the in memoriam pictures that you saw during the meditation, with a story about each of those members, 8 members that have passed since we started 20 years ago. So it's a wonderful chapter.
So Pat, how does the work of Blooms for Africa fit with the work of our church, the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton?
Well, there's so many ways, but I'm going to tell you one story that illustrates it, and it comes from chapter 3, which is the chapter that details all the garden tours we've had over the years, with the posters from those particular tours and some wonderful stories about the different tours that we've had. But this story happened last summer when Gail invited Anne and me to her house for lunch. She said she hadn't seen us for a while and she'd like to have a little chat. So who doesn't want to go to Gail's house for lunch? And it was lovely, and we had our lovely lunch, and Anne and I thought it was about time to go home. And Gail said, "So, Anne and Pat, I was just wondering what you would think about commemorating our 20th anniversary next summer," that's this summer, because this was happening last year, "with another garden tour." I said, "No." I said, "What were you thinking of? We're all 20 years older than we were when we started. We're tired. Garden tours are a lot of work. No, that is a very bad idea, Gail." And Gail, with her mentoring coaching skills, said, "I hear you, Pat." And I know how you feel. I was just curious if you would feel the same way if it was a garden tour focused on native plants. She knew she had me because our church had been working towards transitioning to native gardening. We had many awards for that. We have people in our congregation, Jean Jacobs, Sheila Dundooley, Joanne Tunnicliffe, who have done that transition, who would put their gardens in the tour. They would get other people's gardens in the tour so we wouldn't have the heavy work of finding all the gardens. And it would be very consistent, bring together the work of our church, the work of Blooms for Africa. It also brings together the work of the climate action team at our church, who's consistent about the environment and about the gardening and how that impacts on the environment, which impacts more on our African sisters than it does to us, because they suffer more from climate change than do we. So it was a perfect match, and it's the way we've matched our activities over the years between the church and Blooms for Africa.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Pat. Our final speaker is Gail Rappolt. She has been a member of the Blooms for Africa since 2007, has served as chair and communications lead, as well as co-lead for garden tours and trunk sales. Talk to us, Gail, about your experience in Africa with the Stephen Lewis Foundation and how that has informed you since you returned.
Thanks, Doreen. I have to add that I apparently have one unintended source of help with Blooms for Africa, which is a great amount of humor at my expense. I could talk at length about the determination, the grace, the resilience, the joy in the face of unimaginable issues that we can't even fathom, that I observed with the African grandmothers. But I think the unintended impact of my privilege is the thing that has stuck with me and has been an ongoing learning. I want to give you 3 examples of the kind of teaching and instruction that we had while I was with the Stephen Lewis Foundation. We visited Uganda, Kampala, and we visited actual community projects there. And then we were gifted with being witnesses of a grandmother's gathering in Arusha, Tanzania. Each day, each morning, we were briefed. Each night, we had a sort of process of our days. 3 instructions have stuck in my mind. The first was, please do not take pictures from the bus window. Why? Apparently it had become apparent over the years that in the villages, the young people saw the privileged white tourists taking pictures, and because of the colonial history, made the assumption that these were people who were taking these pictures back and once again profiting from their poverty, from what we were showing. It was profound for me, because who would have thought something as apparently inconsequential as taking pictures could have such an impact? The second was, when you are at the grand gathering, no matter how sad or how devastating the grandmother's stories are as they tell them, do not cry. But they cry. Yes, they cry. They cry from a place of sisterhood and empathy. You are here to bear witness. If you cry, they assume you see them as helpless, and they may see their situation as hopeless. The third was even more profound for me, because I would have made this mistake for sure. Do not offer to pay more than they are asking at a community gathering or a marketplace. But the things they are selling are way too inexpensive. Yes, by your privilege standards. But if you offer more, you are undermining their sense of worth of the things they have made, and you are exacerbating the gap between their lives and yours. I say that this is the most profound learning because it's with me every day. Privilege is a relative thing. Of course, the privilege between the colonialism, the racism that had been perpetrated on our African sisters, and the privileged lives that we lead here in comparison. But privilege is relative. And I have a feeling it's kind of a lifelong learning for me to be constantly thoughtful about unintended consequences of actions or words. It's something I try to live every day with moderate or limited success.
Gail, I have heard you say that the way the Stephen Lewis Foundation operates aligns with the 8 principles of the Unitarian Universalist Church, which are on the back of your order of service, by the way. Could you give some examples?
Thanks again, Doreen. Anne and Pat have both referred to a couple of things. I want to speak particularly about the search freely and responsibly for truth and meaning. Stephen Lewis Foundation is a learning organization. When I was in Uganda and Tanzania, Joanna, our lead, talked constantly about how they would have done things 5 years ago, but now how they do them because of what they've learned. And I think that is something that is tied to our church, tied to Unitarian Universalism, where we are constantly searching, attempting to learn to do better. I think one of the examples that stuck with me was we were at a home, and the home had a little Stephen Lewis Foundation logo on it, and the photographers were always local. They didn't bring their own people. They hired people there. And he said, "Oh, no, move so that we can see the logo on the house." And that night, Joanna explained to us that they would never, ever use that picture in their marketing or their work with donors. And we said, "Well, why?" "Well, would you want a logo of some charity on your house so that you walked in the door every day thinking that you were a charity case?" And again, it's kind of tied to something I said in the first, but I think it's relevant. The foundation has continued to learn, and I think the other place where I'll link it to is our relatively new principle in Unitarian Universalism, the 8th principle, and I'm going to give you a very shortened version of it. For those of you who know Unitarians, a few words is not something they're familiar with. The shortened version of the 8th principle is dismantling racism and other oppressions. So this is something that I think it's hard work. And the foundation, Joanna talked a great deal about mistakes they had made in the past and things that they were now doing differently. And I think an example that'll really have meaning for you, sometimes in calls for donation for overseas things, we see quite sad pictures of children or people who are ill. The foundation would never do that. You will never see that now in any of their materials. And the comment was, would you want your grandchildren taken pictures of when they were ill, when they were at their worst? No. You share pictures when they're happy and healthy. And those kinds of things for me are sort of metaphors for how I want to do my life and my work. And I do want to say, for those of you who are here as congregants, but particularly for those of you who don't come here regularly, I'm very proud of our church. I want to acknowledge the work of our 8th principal group, which is now called Dismantling Barriers, and the work of our board and our finance committee and our social justice groups who are doing the work of dismantling these systemic barriers. And it is tough work. It is tough mental work. It is tough emotional and spiritual work. And I'm thrilled that I can say that the foundation and this congregation are doing that hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your reflections and insights. Blooms for Africa is an amazing group, rich with grandmothers and grandothers who want to make a difference in this world. Thank you.
Our next hymn, number 108 in the Gray Hymnal, I want to say a few words about this hymn, My Life Flows On, an Endless Song. It's also known as How Can I Keep From Singing? And it's evolved over time since it was originally published in 1858 under the title Always Rejoicing. The lyrics were by Pauline T. and the music by Baptist minister Robert Wadsworth Lowry. This beloved folk hymn combines 19th century gospel, Christian gospel roots with 20th century activism. And it appears in many, many faith traditional hymnals and secular songbook collections. It's a favorite song of Stephen Lewis. It was performed and we sang it at his celebration of life at the end of April in Toronto. So please rise in body and or spirit in joining in singing My Life Flows On, an Endless Song.
My
Together, we are better. We all bring unique gifts to the work of creating a just world. Our work is never done. What steers your soul to action? What ignites your passion? What speaks to your heart? What brings you joy? Whatever your gifts, the world needs you. Perhaps your gift is in creating and curating music or singing in the resistance. Perhaps your gift involves putting pen to paper, fingers to keyboard, writing a just world. Perhaps your gift is in raising dollars to fund the work of justice. Or perhaps your gift is in organizing and coordinating, mobilizing and mentoring the next generation. However you show up for the work of justice, whatever your gifts, the world needs you. And whatever calls you to action, find your people. Together you will dream new ways into being. Together we are better. And finally, in the words of Margaret Mead, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Go in peace, go in love, go in joy. So may it be.
Sing along.
Shine.
You're welcome to join us in the foyer, and also the books are over on this side.